Okay, welcome to Black Belt Interviews with me, Master David Hodson. I'm joined today and very pleased to say I have here with me Grandmaster Ray O'Neill from Stonehenge. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and really looking forward to spending the time here speaking about your experiences and finding out where it all began for you. It's a very nice day here, lots of sun.
Yeah.
How is it where you are?
Yeah, it's lovely out here. It's this bike weather, so.
Fantastic. A nice part of the world to be in, where you are right now.
Sorry?
A nice part of the world where you are.
I mean, I love it. It's literally, I live about 2 miles from Stonehenge, and it's country. It's just the Salisbury Plain area. Wiltshire as a county is one of the largest counties, but it's just beautiful open. So for a motorcyclist, it's just lovely for riding. You just enjoy it. It's beautiful.
Wonderful. Yeah. No, we've been down a few times, obviously on our way to Devon or Cornwall, but
you go past Stonehenge if you go.
Yeah, lovely.
That's my house.
Yeah, I'll definitely look out next time for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. So Taekwondo, it's been a lifelong journey for yourself, pretty much. Are you able to share where it all began for you?
Yeah, I mean, at school, I was as a young child, I had really bad asthma, really bad asthma, and consequently, my school life was really bad. Always the victim of bullies, always being picked on, always being, chased. I mean, if they wanted a bit of fun, they chased Ray O'Neill around the playground because they knew I'd collapse. And many a times I'd be on my way to hospital with my parents being called, because they do just that. They chase me around the field, knowing damn well that I couldn't run. I'd run 10, 20 feet and I'd be collapsing with an asthma attack. And, this my whole life was in school was just being, if they wanted to pick on someone, they'd pick on me. I was a puny little kid. Couldn't look after myself, couldn't defend myself, asthmatic, couldn't do anything, no good at sports, and obviously an easy target.
Yeah,
very easy target. And it wasn't until I left school did I want to do something about it. But leaving school was for me a relief.
Yeah,
it got me away from all the bullies. Until one night, I was 16 and a half, 17. I attended a local disco, so to speak, as they were called in those days. A local village hall, and after the disco, I walked around to the chip shop, as a lot of people do after the disco, and have some chips. And I walked down the shortcut between these old age pensioners' houses and the chip shop, and I heard a group of people shout, "Get him!" And I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. I didn't know what on earth that was. And all of a sudden, 5 or 6 people jumped on me and give me a really good hiding. And it was then I thought, this happened all at school. I can't let this carry on.
Right.
Adult life. So I wanted to do something about it, but I had no idea what I could do. I was in the Air Cadets at the time. And across the hall from the Air Cadet Training Hall was a dojang. It's the Stonehenge dojang. It was an RAF gymnasium. And I saw these people in there with these white pajamas doing and punching. And I thought, have a look at that. I walked in, and I had no idea what it was, whether it was karate, kung fu. I'd never heard of Taekwondo. I was interested in martial arts. But when they turned round, I saw the words Taekwondo on the back. And a light bulb kind of flicked. I said, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do to help change my life. I had no idea how it would impact on my life, but I soon found when I started Taekwondo, I remember the instructor, who actually ironically knew me. He was in the Air Cadets. He said, "Oh, you'll never last at this, Ray," he said. He said, "You'll never last with Taekwondo." I remember those immortal words, and so that's proved to be wrong. But it was very quickly that I adapted really well to Taekwondo. I absolutely loved the kicks, and I've never really looked back from that day. I was determined to sort my life out, make sure I wasn't the victim anymore. And, Taekwondo saved me from that. And it was soon after that I realized the love of Taekwondo and how it's changed me and how I could, in future, hopefully give that back.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, really difficult time for you growing up, as I guess for many children across the world. Schooling is such a challenging time for so many.
Yeah.
And I guess you ended up looking for something, like you say, to give you that opportunity to have a life-changing experience.
Sad thing is, even today as an instructor, I'm teaching so many students, and invariably, I've been on many child protection courses because I'm the child protection officer for our organisation. So even when I was in the UKTA previously, I as the national secretary of the UKTA at the time, I still went on courses with the BTC and child protection courses for myself. And throughout my professional life, not as a Taekwondo instructor, but before I turned professional instructor, I was in personnel management and things like that, and I've obviously been teaching children, and oddly enough, it came to mind that quite often in these courses you're advised that one of the most dangerous places for a child is where we send them every day. And when I say dangerous, for a lot of children, it's not a dangerous environment, but when we talk about bullying and violence at school, there's so much of it. Every day you hear, even my children, oh, somebody's picking on them, somebody's doing this, picking on them. There's always, oh, he hit me, they pushed me around. There's so much. And so, I think, the children in Taekwondo today have got a real life skill if they sustain it and keep working at it. And that's what I can push through my classes. You can't go into a shop and buy this knowledge. No. Parents can't go to Argos and buy a black belt. You could go into a shop and buy the black belt. I've often said many times, even to my black belts, the black belt, the red belt, the blue belt, the green belt, the yellow belt, it will not save you at all. It doesn't matter what color belt. A lot of people, all they think about is, oh, I want to get my green belt, I want to get my yellow belt, I want to get my blue belt, red belt, black belt. Now I want to get my first dan, second dan. But I say, and this has been instilled in me through my instructor, pioneer, first Grandmaster Rhee, but over the years with him. But and it's so true. And I tell my students, you wear the belt in the dojang, but it means nothing. I don't mean that in a derogatory way to what it represents, because that's not true. It means absolutely everything. But as far as Joe Bloggs walking down the street, your belt means nothing. It doesn't matter whether you've got 9th cut or, in fact, 9th dan. It makes no difference at all in my point of view. What belt you wear in the class, that belt will not protect you. What will protect you is the knowledge and the education and the training that goes with it. And that's part of the integrity that we expect with the knowledge and the confidence and the experience should match the belt you're wearing, not just a case of wearing the belt. And as Grandmaster Rhee said, when I went to Finland with him many years ago, he said, there's so many, why do people mug? He asked me, why do people mug people? Why do they stab people? Why do they attack people? It's because they lack confidence. And I think if Taekwondo gives that confidence, which it clearly does, then that's the confidence that will stop people picking on you. You become a target. Bullies pick on a target because there's something about them that makes them vulnerable. But confident Taekwondo people, they get left alone. And that's why I say to my students, it's not your belt you're wearing, it's this that you need. And once this is trained, then that's fine. The belt we just wear in class, so you know where to stand, and obviously it represents the hard work and achievements that you've achieved within it. But the thing that's going to help you in the street is what's in here, really.
Yeah, 100%. So I really appreciate that. bit of philosophy you're sharing with us that I'm sure the listeners are benefiting from and watching as well. These are the kind of things that we really want to sort of hear from yourself, and I think it's very interesting to look at it that way, between what we wear in the dojang and how we are when we're outside in the real world. It's yeah.
I mean, the sad thing is that so many students they just wear their belt once a week and they walk around. I'm a black belt, but you wear a black belt, but is this in the place for it? You know, I'll be honest with you. You know, I took over my school as a red belt. I took the school over as a red belt. My instructor sort of had a few issues and had to leave. I wanted to be a black belt at that time. I really adapted well to Taekwondo. And, you know, for me, a red belt, I couldn't think of anything worse than stopping it. No other Taekwondo in this part of the country. The nearest place was in Bristol with Mike Dew. And in fact, I traveled to Bristol for a week to get my black belt because I never had an instructor. You know,
right.
I took over the school as a red belt. I wasn't an instructor. I had nobody to turn to. So obviously, I was in the UKJ at the time. I turned to the nearest instructor I could find. That was Mike Dew, who was based in Bristol. And obviously he linked, you know, obviously, and having the absolute terror of phoning Grandmaster Rhee for the very first time as a 7th Dan at the time, a little red belt going on to trying to get my first Dan and hoping he'd accept me and allow the school to keep running. Tom McCullum, Grandmaster Tom McCullum, obviously was the national secretary at the time. I got on with him exceptionally well. He was a great guy and certainly helped the Stonehenge school continue. And I got my first Dan, but eventually. But the point I was saying is that even then, was I 100% sure that I could use Taekwondo effectively to defend myself? I'll be honest, there may be a very small percentage of students who get their first Dan and can stand there and say, yeah, some guy with a knife, I'll handle it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not at first Dan. You know, maybe some, I don't know. But to me, mentally and physically, emotionally, I don't think you've learned enough yet. That's why we say first to third Dan novice, you know. And it's true. I think when I say to my black belts, you've got your first Dan today. You've literally flown the nest. Okay, at the moment, mummy, daddy's been feeding you all the time from white belt all the way up to red belt, up to the first Dan. You've been sitting in that nest. They bring the food, they come and they feed you. But now you're a black belt, you fall out of the nest. All of a sudden, you've got to find out where'd that food come from? What food can I eat? What dangers there are? I say, I've been in my nest and mummy's been the food, but now all of a sudden, I'm on the floor. What's this rain? What's that sound? You know, I've got to find out. I'm a black belt, but can't fly yet, you know? And I think a lot of people don't quite understand the length of the journey. And I'm certainly not undermining first Dan's ability to be able to perform Taekwondo. That's the case. But what I want is, you know, you're not an expert and you're just starting out. It's a bit like suddenly passing your driving test. The colour belt stage is you're learning to drive. First Dan, you begin to learn Taekwondo. I think if you have that mentality, by the time you get second Dan, you're a totally changed person. I mean, I've got first Dans who've been, you know, when they get their first Dan, they're a red belt wearing a black belt. Let's be honest.
Yeah, of course.
Got their black belt. They're a red belt wearing a black belt. For some, it's great, and it's a fantastic achievement, and I really like to harness that. But I also want them to realise that this is the beginning of a journey, of a very long journey that's going to really help you. And a bit like in all sorts of life, if you want to be, as I say to my students, would you take your dog to a vet that's probably not so qualified? Okay, would you like an operation with with a surgeon who's, oh, you know, I can't remember how I did that, you know, and was it high section? Was it middle section?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I can't remember Shonji. I can't remember Dangun. I said, you wouldn't want a surgeon to get up through your surgery and
Sure.
forget. So I said, you know, from first Dan, now's the time where you can just totally chill out. You've got a good 18 months before your next grading. Chill out and get everything in order.
Yeah.
And a lot of black belts have said to me, you know what, sir, when I got my black belt, I thought, great, I'm a black belt.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, a year down the road, I realized how little I actually knew when I got my black belt compared to what I know now. And they don't say how little Taekwondo they knew.
No.
How little they knew about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it. Yeah, I'm not mentioning any names, but a lot of my students, I'll embarrass them. I have completely changed as a person, and my perception of myself, my perception of my ability. I know Taekwondo. I can do Shonji. I can do up to Gaebek, but that's just Taekwondo. And I'm good at it. And I said, I know you're good at it. That's why you are what you are. That's why Pioneer First Grandmaster gave you that black belt. But I mentioned to you 18 months ago, you are just starting to learn. And he said, you're right, sir, because I feel totally different in my head. And that's, you know, a lot of black belts sadly think that first Dan is the end.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's so very much the beginning. And I wish so many would continue that step just a little bit longer before they give up. And I've spoken to instructors, and you know, they said, oh, I've invested 8-9 years into this person, and they've got their black belt, and now they've left, you know, doing something else. You know, they haven't really found themselves.
No.
You know, and it's a shame, but not all students are like that. But the ones that do progress and go on to second Dan really do develop physically, mentally, and really find out what Taekwondo is about.
Yeah, no, very much echo those sentiments of yours, sir. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's an individual thing. It's something I guess you discover for yourself. It's difficult for us to facilitate that fully for the student. It is an opportunity for them to reflect, as you say. I guess we can just set the experiences up for them, and it's up to them to find themselves within that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, part of an instructor's job, and what I've always maintained is, you know, the ability to encourage and demonstrate. Obviously, I've just celebrated my 60th birthday last week, so when I took over at Red Belt, I was always, and even to this day, I've always been a keen performer. And I like to lead through example, and I often have. And it was only last week that somebody was talking about putting on a black belt display, and I said, well, let's forget the breaker boards, because breaker boards, they're a bit of plastic, and although they are incredibly hard, I mean, I've still got some original breaker boards, the Rhee logo on them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You need a sledgehammer, you need a 20-ton truck doing 100 miles an hour. I've still got one. I've still got a box in my garage, and I bring them out every now and then. I said, look, this is what we were brought up on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this is what myself, Grandmaster Cutler, and a lot of the old UKTA guys who are still around today will certainly agree with me by saying we were brought up on these boards, and they are absolutely incredibly hard. But the thing is, even though they're incredibly hard, if you take them to a public display, people think you're cheating.
Right, right.
You're joining them back together.
Yeah, yeah.
Plastic is it, joining back together.
Yeah.
I remember doing a fete, and we had a pound to punch the board. If you break it, you get your pound back. It's a win-win. They have to sign a legal disclaimer, few more risks.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit of fun. I had really easy boards, or in my mind, a bit of easy boards. And we were trying to, and this guy came in. He was a military guy. I'm surrounded by the military. I do I do a lot of military work around here as a professional instructor. I got Larkhill, Bulford Garrison, Tidworth Garrison. They're surrounded by military garrisons. So sometimes I'll get quite busy, but you know,
Yeah.
with this fate, and this guy come in with his little son, and he go, "Go on, Dad, hit it." And he punched it. He
Yeah.
broke it. I gave him his pound back.
Yeah.
Said, "Do it again." He said, "Sorry." I said, "Do it again." He said, he looked at his fist and he said, "You're kidding me." I said, "No, no, you do it again." He said, "No,
No.
not a chance." I said, "Well, that's the point we're trying to make." I
Yeah.
said, whilst you're a very strong, powerful man and you broke that with your first punch, I said, you know, this is Taekwondo. So I put the same board up and I punched it 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
Was absolutely astounded. He said, "What's the matter with your fist?" I said, "Nothing's the matter with it. It's still absolutely perfect." I said,
Yeah.
"It must be made of metal." I said, "No, it's not. That's just the way we condition Taekwondo."
Yeah.
Became a member of the school. You know, I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
thinking, you know, "Oh, I don't need this Taekwondo. I'm all powerful." Hits
Yeah.
the board, but he can only hit it once.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
His arm was out here.
Yeah.
You know, so what I like to do, even last week, is to lead by example and give my students that opportunity to better themselves with different challenges, both physical and mental. And we had a great block breaking session last week, and it goes well. I had young first stands kicking through 3-inch blocks. It was brilliant. So
Yeah. Yeah.
as instructors, that's what we want to do. We want students to get the best out of themselves as
Very
well
much.
as out of Taekwondo, and ultimately, that's, you know, our job is to teach Taekwondo for them to defend themselves. But ultimately, as I always maintain, a good martial artist shouldn't really get involved in fights. You know,
No, that's right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to avoid it. You can't obviously write the book and say, well, you're never going to get picked on, never going to get attacked. But you know, if you've got good spatial awareness and you carry yourself well, invariably you'll get left alone, and that's the beauty of it. So it can be peace. And as I've said with a lot of school children, with the fact that you haven't got to worry about being bullied. I mean, I know a couple of students of mine, their parents have said to me, "This is money well spent," because he was struggling at school. But
Yeah.
I thought, well, you really got to concentrate on your schoolwork. But you're doing football, you're doing this, you're doing that. Okay, you want to do Taekwondo, you have to leave something out. So he left something out. But his parents said they're really glad that they've invested in the Taekwondo, because what it's done in school is really improve the students' not only confidence, but his academic qualification.
Really. Yeah.
You know, where he was a struggler at school, the school reports have come back to his parents and said, what has happened with this student? Because over the last 6 to 8 months, he's absolutely settled in his schoolwork. He's really focused, getting good grades. He said, what's happened? And the only thing they could attribute it to was the fact that he's also started Taekwondo, and it's just given him a whole new sense. He doesn't worry so much about walking in the playground, because oddly enough, that's the worst time. You know, that's the worst time for some children to get picked on, are play times and lunch times when they're in the playgrounds. So having that confidence with Taekwondo certainly improved their ability, and it affects school life as well, which is education. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, wonderful to hear that, and I'm sure there's many examples of that in the Taekwondo schools far and wide, because that's what Taekwondo can do for someone, can't it?
Exactly.
And it can create that chain of events where they gain the confidence where they couldn't find it before, and then that can spread to the other areas of.
Also affect the adult world as well. I know many adults who have you know, progressed far more. One particular student, he's never thought about becoming a manager. He was certainly on the shop floor.
Yeah.
But then becoming a senior grade in Taekwondo is given it. Well, you know, actually, I'm a little bit more confident myself, and I quite like the idea of helping people and assisting. So and then I said I've been offered the management post, but I never thought I'd like it.
Right.
But he's accepted it. So I said,
Brilliant. Yeah.
it's great. So doing Taekwondo has given him the confidence to progress in his daytime job as well, which is
Yeah.
great,
But it changes your perception about yourself, like you say. The
Yeah.
limitations you give yourself, Taekwondo can show you, and it can show the other way as well, can't it? Because you can share the dojang with many managers and CEOs and business owners, but when you put the dobok on, everyone's the same, aren't they? It's a great leveler.
And I've said this many a time, sometimes in seminars I've had, I mean, a lot of my black belts, some of them are senior police officers,
Right.
some of them are criminal lawyers, some of them are doctors, some of them are city bankers, I got a couple of veterinary surgeons, I've got a dentist, I mean, all done really, really well. But when they're in the classroom, they are what they are. They're all Taekwondo students, but we can all feed off each other's experience. In our stars, even in Ace Taekwondo, we've got people who've got who've got the experience in law. They've got the experience in emotion. We've got psychologists. We've got criminal psychologists who can help us. An insight into the brain. We've got people who do massage and physical physiotherapy. So within the dojangs, if you have a look at what your students are, and I think this is where sometimes instructors need to invest in their students as well. Sometimes, they got lots of other qualities, and not all students want to be too involved, but it's nice when we have our instructors courses, we do an introduction and we see what people are doing. We thought, I never knew you did that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
a little bit of advice on how to warm up and how to treat, a little bit of this. So it works both ways.
Yeah, very much. So so your Taekwondo journey started fairly early for you. The timing was very helpful for you, and you got involved in that life-changing process of becoming a student, as it is for myself and so many others. And you progressed to becoming an instructor, and then gaining your black belt. Was that around 1983, if I check my dates there?
27th of March 1983.
Yeah.
The date. That was after a week-long course in Bristol. Went up to Derby and sat down there, and I watched the grading, which was the precursor of something else, which I don't really want to discuss on here. It was a fantastic grade in 27th of March 1983 is when I got the black belt. But in those days, you never got told straight away.
This is it. Yeah.
Even when I achieved my black belt, it was about 2 weeks later. I received a phone call saying I'd succeeded my black belt, and it was just an amazing feeling. But I was really chuffed. I had my mother got me a dobok and put all the black stripes on it. But I didn't wear it. I didn't try it. She said, you need to try it on to see if it'll fit you. I said, I can't, Mum. There's no way until I know I've passed. And it was a lovely feeling. I went straight out of the garden, took some photographs when I was the first Dan. That's great. And then obviously moving on, I needed to get my instructor's course diploma. So I went up to Glasgow with first Grandmaster Rhee, got that. But then I think, my ultimate goal then was to become an expert. I wanted to become an expert, which was 4th degree. Now, obviously, I had a few hurdles in the way. 2nd Dan, 3rd Dan, I needed to get them out of the way. But to me, it was never. They say officially a waiting time. I was never. It was Grandmaster Rhee never used to put it in our heads. We were never thinking of waiting time. There's no such word as waiting time. It was training time.
Training time. Yeah.
And that was it. We had to train solid. You don't wait 18 months for your 2nd Dan. you don't wait 2 years for your third dan. You train 18 months and you train hard. And Grandmaster Rhee, whenever we used to train, the seminars were just brutal. They were brutal. Unbelievable Taekwondo. And it was great. We would be doing bansa chagis off the wall at second dan, flying reflex kicks, and we'd be doing them all afternoon, and nowadays you've got to be so careful about injuries and all that. But, years and years ago, we just used to do crazy stuff. So I got my second dan and my third dan, and that was an awesome experience. And then the time came where I really trained really hard for my fourth degree. And I went up to Elgin and I achieved my fourth degree. And that was a real turning point for me. As an international instructor then, I needed to qualify, spending a lot of time with General Che to become an international instructor, and listening to his theories, in the sense that, in those days, fourth degrees were they were very few and far in between. So we were the people that needed to run the tournaments. So effectively, you wanted to become an international instructor, you kind of had to give up competing. Whilst I love competing, I got from green belt. In those days, it was green belt onwards. You couldn't compete from yellow belt or white belt like nowadays. I think it's a money thing sometimes. Get about 50 white belts on a mat jumping around for 30 seconds at £20 a shot, whatever. But I mean, it's nice for them to gain the experience. It's fantastic. And with the cost of the medals and dojangs and mats and everything, officials and food, then any way of generating income is an absolute bonus. And I've had white belts going into competition, even if it's just to do a little pattern, not so much sparring, but yellow belts sparring nowadays is quite common. Good for their confidence. So I've got nothing against it. In actual fact, I push my students into it anyway, because I feel it takes them out of their comfort zone, championships, and it really helps them develop emotionally and physically. But as I said, in my days, the earliest you can compete was a green belt. So I quite often do as much as I can. And I retired at third dan because I wanted to become an international instructor. And in those days, you had a choice. Well, not say a choice. It was recommended by General Che. You wanted to be an international instructor. You kind of had to leave the tournament stuff behind and focus on a different role, different job. And that's what I do. And that's what I did. But I certainly got quite a lot of medals in my time. But I'd never a hardened competitor. To me, I was more of a technician. I really wanted to learn the technical side of Taekwondo, the scientific side of Taekwondo, and the theory side of Taekwondo. And having Pioneer first Grandmaster Rhee there as a Korean helped no end. I was very fast. I was often labeled as the walking encyclopedia, but it's a nice phrase, but maybe the grey matter's fading a little bit now. But there's so much in there. That's the trouble. Once I got my fourth degree, it was a fantastic stage. I became an international instructor, which was a whole new ball game for me. And then obviously starting to, I travelled with Grandmaster Rhee many times abroad and doing international seminars. But I've been to some lovely places in the world. But a lot of people say to me, like I went to Barbados and I went to Grenada, beautiful Caribbean country. And people say, "Oh, you're lucky." I said, "Well, what you've got to understand is it was literally, airport to airport to hotel to dojang to restaurant to bed, get up the next day, dojang, restaurant, bed every day, back to airport, home." So yes, Caribbean. Have I been on the beach swimming in the lovely Caribbean? No. I was Grandmaster Rhee, Pioneer First Grandmaster Rhee, doing an international seminar.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, lots of countries, you know, when I went to Finland many times, it was fantastic. But again, lovely country, and all the countries I've been to with Grandmaster Rhee, a lot of the time. The only one I really enjoyed was when we went to Canada. We saw the Niagara Falls. So Mike Morningstar, fantastic guy. He arranged a few trips, and that was a wonderful experience. You know, fortunately, he did allocate some time for sightseeing, but most of the times you don't.
Yeah.
In all the traveling with Grandmaster Rhee, I realised, you know, I wanted to become a master, and I think to me that was the epitome of where I think I want to go. I didn't see anything else. I wanted to become a master, and then my world was destroyed as far as I was concerned when I was a sixth dan, because I had an accident and I broke my knees, and both my knees were destroyed, and they're all held together. A lot of people now can't believe that my knees are held together with screws and bolts, because I can still kick 180 degrees, and even now I've got photographs as a 9th degree kicking right up there, and power braking and all that. But when it happened, I was 6th degree. I thought, how am I going to get my master now? Because I can't walk, I can't kick, I can't stand, I can't do anything. I do an outer crescent kick, and I'd be on my backside, I'd fall.
Yeah.
Around, I do a twisting move, and I'll fall. So I mean, it took me. This was the early stages of sixth dan, but my mind was in the right place. I had a very good private surgeon in a local hospital. We got private hospital down here, and I had my operation, and it took me 2.5 years before I was physically able to kick again properly. And in a way it helped me and helped a lot of students, because where I was always smashing 4-5 boards, not a problem, and doing flying kicks, I was often told, "Sir, have you got a pilot's license?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're always flying." And it was quite funny. I was always considered a pilot because I was always flying. I specialised in flying kicks, and but obviously that caused a problem with my knees, and I was, I couldn't. I'd do a rising kick and I'd fall over. I couldn't even break a child's board.
Really?
You know, if I lifted my leg up, the other leg wasn't strong enough, that would fall over, and it got so bad. So, but this was a long 2-year battle to try and get back to physical fitness, and the biggest battle was my mind. I had to have a lot of patience, a lot of work and rehabilitation, and I was still teaching. I think I took about 2 weeks off, and that's about it. And I was in the class in my crutches. I was still teaching. I couldn't not go to Taekwondo. The biggest annoying thing, I couldn't ride my motorbike, and I couldn't drive a car. That was the biggest problem.
Getting about.
I couldn't ride the motorbike. I just couldn't put your feet down, and my legs. I always drive automatics, but still you needed to push the brake, and if you haven't got the power, you couldn't do it. So I couldn't drive for a certain amount of time. But I could always do Taekwondo, because the beauty of the teaching, it helped me go through. And so I thought, I've got to keep going, and in the end, it was literally on the cusp of my 7th degree grading. 2.5. That was about 3.5 years, 4 years after the accident. I thought, well, my knees should be strong enough, and they were, and I slowly built them up. And I went up to Elgin, and I asked Master Williamson at the time, who was the host in the UKTA, to I couldn't bring these great big blocks on the aircraft, so I said,
Right.
blocks, if you can, bring them up there, and I did them. They were a little bit damp. They took some breaking, but in the end, on my 7th degree, I was still doing flying split kicks and on the grading, which I thought I'd never be able to do again.
Oh, that's incredible.
But
Yeah.
I did that for my grading, a split kick punch, a triple technique, and some static ones, and all my patterns, which was really good. And you know, I spoke to Grandmaster Rhee about a year and a half before my 7th Dan, and I said, sir, I'd like to prepare. I said, I think mentally and physically my legs are getting better, and I was back to kicking again and slowly doing it. I said, what have I got to do for my master degree? He said one word and then hung up. But that was the only thing I needed. He's a Grandmaster Rhee. He can inspire you so much with so little.
Yeah.
You know, rang him up expecting a long conversation. You know, sir, what do I need to do for my 7th Dan? One word, everything. That's it. I thought, okay, everything. And the thing, I think what he meant was there is nothing you shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
And I ask you to do anything, and that's the way it was, and that was the way we were brought up. That's the way that, you know, people of my age and Grandmaster Cutler and other grandmasters in the UKTA that are around now. That's the way we were brought up, you know, with that mentality. You've got to be prepared for everything. So I literally, from Shonji, the Tongil, and every conceivable form of breaking and all the theory and everything, prepared for. And, you know, I was crying my eyes out when I got promoted to 7th degree, and that was it. I think 8th Dan. That was just another step of the ladder. That was nice. I still did the display. And then, you know, on 2016, Grandmaster Rhee rang me up and said, can you host a seminar at Stonehenge in November? And I thought, a bit odd, you know, a bit odd. And normally I would invite him down, not him to come. And November is not a good time either for traveling. So I couldn't work out what was going on.
Right.
Okay. So if you, I'll organise a seminar, no problem. And it was a freezing day, but you know, consequently, obviously he had planned, as it was the anniversary of Taekwondo as well, the Jubilee year. And I was due for promotion. Not that I requested it. It's not something you request. But you know, he decided to promote me to Grandmaster, and that was an unbelievable day. I got it on video, and it's a memory that will cherish with me forever. But and again, I don't think it's for me. I think it, you know, as Grandmaster Rhee said, when I got my 7th degree, he had the epaulets. And I remember him saying to me, I said, okay, he said, they weigh nothing. And a lot of people don't understand what I mean, but he said, they weigh nothing until you put them on.
Right.
And I said, as a master, that should mean something. You know, the epaulets you put on, but they don't, it's not just something pretty.
No.
Whether it's an epaulette, or whether it's a grade, he has said that, you know, they weigh nothing until you put them on, and it's not until you put them on do you actually realize what he means, because the responsibility that comes with that grade and any master grade is unbelievable. And he said the same with Grandmaster. I said, now, you know, this is more educational, philosophical. You can teach with your mind, you can teach, you know, you've done the technical, but you've got to more philosophical and try and nurture students as well. and this is what I feel I'd like to do. You know, as he says, you know, anybody can be a seventh dan, but it takes a special person to be a master.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way I like to. That's the way I've been brought up that way. Don't apply for your seventh dan. If you just want to be a seventh dan, then fine. Okay, you can be a seventh dan, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a master. So a master's a totally different person, and that's to do with the mentality, not just the grade.
Yeah.
That's carried on through 8th degree and certainly through 9th degree, which is more the spiritual side and philosophy side of Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Which is really good. So yeah, it's been quite an incredible journey.
Yeah, well,
you
it's
know,
fantastic to listen to what you're saying, sir. I'm so pleased that we're talking about this and recording it, because I think it's very important for students to hear these experiences that yourself and many others are fortunate to have with the pioneers and the founder of Taekwondo, because many of them can't have those same experiences. But by listening and hearing and hearing the stories, then I think that makes a big difference for their journey, that they can tap into what you're talking about and sharing it in that way.
You know, I mean, Grandmaster Rhee, I mean, he's 21 plus now, and you know, there's never a time that we don't learn from him or he's educating us. As I say, myself, Grandmaster Cutler, myself, and Pioneer First Grandmaster Rhee, we meet on a platform like this, visually, whether it's Messenger or Zoom, and we discuss Taekwondo, we discuss the development, and just discuss everything. And you know, he never fails to educate us. And I think as a Grandmaster myself, I'm honored and proud I've still got an instructor.
Yeah.
You know, because sadly a lot of people haven't. You know, a lot of people, the you know, the tops of their organization, and no disrespect to them, but who do they go to? Who do these people go to? You know, they're masters. They're you know, and who do they go to? They need, even masters need teachers.
Yeah.
And that's I'm always honored and privileged to have him. You know, and you know, he said anytime I can call, and sometimes it's nice to just pick up the phone and have a chat with him, especially over this time with COVID. Able to see each other as much, but you know, as a pioneer, you know, he lives and breathes Taekwondo. You know, he often said as a grandmaster's job, you know, Taekwondo has to develop, has to evolve, and I agree. I know a lot of students, a lot of Taekwondo instructors disagree with Taekwondo changing. In a way, so do I. I don't think you can change Taekwondo, but I think you can develop it. You know, and I think you can enhance it. And that obviously, there's often people say, no, whatever's written in the book, it should stay that way. Whatever's written in the book should stay that way. You cannot change what's in the book. You cannot take it out. Okay, but what you can do, you can develop, because I liken it, as I quite often said, to the motor car. You know, and quite often I've said to an instructor, you know, before, why do you drive that car? So what do you mean, sir? Why do you drive that car? Why don't you drive a car from the 1930s? Well, you know, the point I'm making is, whilst the 1930s is a motor car, 1920s is a motor car, they're both motor cars, they both do the same job, but one is certainly more developed than the other. Doesn't mean they're both not motor cars. And Taekwondo is the same. I don't think we've got a right to change anything that General Che has created. Definitely not. What patterns he's created, they are what they are. 24 patterns, you know, or 25 if you include, you know, Kodang, which is often in many syllabuses, and Chuche that isn't in some. You know, 25 patterns. I'd like to say 26, but Yuan was never really put in the syllabus, so the others were. So for some of us, we know 25 patterns. And I don't think we can ever change the moves in them or rewrite them. That's you cannot do that. But as Grandmaster Rhee says, he was walking along the river path, and some swans came up and started snapping like this, snapping at protecting their young. And he thought that's a very good technique. And it wasn't in the book. So he pioneered it, and he called it Bodhisonka, which is beak finger. It's you know, you have a bit like a bird. It looks like a bird, and they snap, you see. And it's called Bodhisonka. He created it. He founded it. He checked it. He tried it. And I demonstrated it at a black belt seminar on some boards. And he did it first time in Cyprus on 2. But I say, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with pioneering Taekwondo. That's what the pioneers are for. But it's up to us, people like yourself. You're the future grandmasters, and our students are the future grandmasters. Taekwondo can't. It's going to evolve. There's going to be new stuff. Why? Lifestyles are changing, aren't they? As Grandmaster Rhee said, too often it's an armchair lifestyle. Children aren't physically developed nowadays. And I find this in my classes. The physical attributes of a lot of students are diminishing. And why is that? 20 years ago when I was training, as a sort of maybe second dan, third dan, I'd get up Sunday morning and bare feet. I do a stamina test on the first 15 minutes of the class, and the fittest student was rewarded by staying in the dojang looking after everything, while the rest of us run around the town in our bare feet. What we did, and everyone said, well, do I want to do a 5-mile jog around Amesbury and Durrington back to the dojang, or do I really want to work now so I can stay in the dojang and practice power testing? So you get some of them that the stamina test first thing in the morning, Sunday morning, everyone was blistering because they wanted to stay behind. Not sit on the backside and do nothing. They do some power testing and go through their patterns and look after belonging. And the rest of us, we'd get out, we do a 5-mile circuit, good promotion of Taekwondo. Members of the public were going, what's all this? 20 or 30 people running down the road, all in bare feet. Nowadays, we're not even insured to take them out the dojang. No. That's trouble. You take them out in the dojang and they've got bare feet on, they tread on a stone. All of a sudden, you're liable for negligence. That's a sad world. Obviously, you can do public demonstrations. The insurance will cover that. But basically, most insurance will cover you from inside the dojang. And children, you do a press up and they can't do press ups. They can't do ups. It's a real battle trying to get students to really develop physically. And I think that's the lifestyle nowadays. It's the multimedia age. And as Grandma Rhee said, I said, Taekwondo has to, everyone's lying in bed, everyone's sitting on chairs. So everybody's eating in restaurants, putting on weight, and so Taekwondo has to evolve. And whilst we can't change it, I do believe it has to move.
It has to draw people out. It's find new ways to say encourage people to come into the dojang, because like for many, most of their life's indoors, isn't it? Growing up, we often wanted to get out first thing, didn't we? And spend our time outdoors and running around and football and so forth.
I got 13 grandchildren.
Wow. And that's amazing, sir. Well done.
As I say to a lot of my kids in my kids class, I got a large children's class, and I got a senior class which I separate because I feel it needs to be done that way. You've got to teach Taekwondo at 2 different levels, sometimes 3 levels if you're talking about black belts. But with the kids, I quite often say, years and years ago, 8 o'clock in the morning until it started to get dark, we were out climbing trees. I got scarred on my forehead. We were at the other side of the river and we were lobbing rocks at each other, and somebody said, look out, bang, I got hit on the head, there's blood everywhere. Parents don't know about it. I go home, I'm all red and washed off, and my mum says, "What happened to you?" "Oh, nothing, you know." And we're falling out of trees and swinging, but that's it. But no mobile phones to call and things like that. But we were okay. We were tough. I certainly appreciate it's not so safe nowadays to allow children just to wander the streets all hours of the day. It's a dangerous world, and I certainly wouldn't like my grandchildren at the age they are of being out at 8 o'clock in the morning until parents used to say when the street lights come home. There were the days where you could leave your front door open and everything will be fine, but nowadays it's certainly not able to do that. But the downside of that is that unless they're more conscious of physical health and well-being and fitness, they're not strong. Because we were strong, we were climbing trees all the time, and
physically you were
finished children. But nowadays, 2 press-ups and they're wrecked.
You
have to push children to develop physically, and
100%.
Some of them cope with it, some of them can't, sadly. Do really benefit from Taekwondo.
Absolutely. Wonderful, sir. There's a couple of things I'd like to explore, if that's okay, just before.
Sure.
Fantastic. One would be your experiences with General Che. You did mention that before we started the interview, which I think was very interesting to hear.
I mean, I've been many courses with General Che, just a few international ones in Vienna and in France, but mostly in this country. And he was. I remember walking into I can't remember. This at the Ramada Hotel, I think it was in Reading, and he was sat on his own at the time being with just a couple of other instructors, and nervously, I think I was a 4th degree. "Hello, sir." You always stand up, and shake your hand and stuff like that. It was brilliant. And it's such a fond memories being with him for over 2 weeks in an international course, as they were those days. Nowadays, international course is 12 hours. How do you work that out?
That's fine.
So, whereas it's gone from 2 weeks to 1 week, and then it went to 4 days, then 2 days, then 1 day, then oh, God forbid, I'm sure I heard somewhere it's a 12-hour international course. I said, how fit international course in 12 hours? At 2 weeks of the stuff, and 2 weeks with General Che. It's amazing. It is such inspiring because he was in his 70s on this particular course, and I mean, I was tired. Obviously, late nights as you all go out in the evening and have meals, but he's come to really sprightly, very very powerful, very knowledgeable. I was asked to a couple of little things. We were that spring to mind. I was at a seminar, and we were doing Dosan, and first move, General Che said back at Palmok, Keondi Maki, and everyone's out of forearm middle block. And okay, everybody did it. They're scratching our heads. And why are you all looking confused? I said, "Sir," I said, "shouldn't it be high block?" And quite funnily, he said, "Okay, what did I write in the book?" He said, "You wrote high block, sir. In that case, it must be high." So, even he said, human brain can't remember everything all the time.
Yeah.
The thing is, he made a joke about it. He told us all to go middle. And then when we said we're all looking confused, and he said, "What did I write in the book?" They said, "You wrote high, sir." "Ah, must be high." It was so comical, He doesn't know what he's talking about. Of course he does. But as instructors, this happens from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you can't remember every time. Is it high? Is it middle? there's so many different techniques, and sometimes it's only human that we make a mistake every now and then and get things wrong. I was on a course with General Che, and it came to the dreaded Che. We know some poor soul was going to get volunteered to do Che, and little did I know, we were all sat on the floor watching Wiam Chungjiang, and then the Che's going to come, and I hadn't long been a fourth degree, and probably about 6 months I'd been a fourth degree, so it was either late 89 or early 90. I think it was 1990, and General Che said, "Okay, Che," and Grandmaster Rhee said he volunteered, and he pointed. I thought, "Oh, great!" So all the patterns. So fine. Fourth degree level. I was on top of the game. I knew what I was doing, but then I did the first movement, Chungjiang, and General Che looked at me and he says, "I said, oh, I thought I said Che." Yes, sir. I goes Chungjiang movement. I thought, oh, it's so embarrassing, but I recovered my honor. Let's put it that way. It was he's such an awe-inspiring man.
Yeah.
The hotel, and everyone starts to sort of what's that sound? All you could hear was
Oh wow, you did hear it, yeah.
Everyone starts looking around and what's going on, and Grandmaster Rhee said, "Oh, it's probably General Che upstairs in the bedroom going bang, bang," and he was just sitting up, but it was shaking the whole hotel. I don't know what floor he was on, wow. But you could literally, it was shaking the entire hotel. This deep thud, like hammer on one of the bedroom walls, and we could hear it from the bar. It was amazing, and the day General Che passed, I think the whole world lost such an icon, and I'm really privileged to, as with a lot of older masters and black belts, to spend quite a bit of time with General Che.
Yeah.
In the seminar stage, sadly, he'd already passed before I came a master, so I didn't have that privilege of serving under him as a master, which was a shame. Loved. He passed a year before I was promoted to master.
Right.
Quite often the masters used to meet in Canada every 11th of April. And I'm looking forward to having that opportunity.
Yeah.
Latter stages, it didn't happen so often, but I'd lost that opportunity. But yeah, an awe-inspiring man, and to this very day, I know pioneer first Grandmaster Rhee still cannot believe he's not here, and believes he is.
Okay.
He quite often gets very emotional when he talks about General Che.
Yeah.
And it's nice to feel that passion, and everything he talks about is as if General Che has never left us, and I don't think he has, and certainly in his mind, he never will. And I know quite often we've had celebration events, and Pioneer First Grandmaster Rhee's been really emotional, and it's see that passion come through, and it can get you quite. Sorry for the people who haven't met him, but awesome opportunity.
Yeah, wonderful to hear these stories that you can tell. And as I say, I'm sure the listeners are really enjoying this as well, because such a unique person, and to have spent time with him, that is something you can cherish forever, isn't it? And like you say,
it's been 5 minutes or 2 weeks or 4 days just to I gave my students the opportunity to travel to Edinburgh to join in with a seminar with General Che, Obviously, it's not often that colour belts get that opportunity. You know, most of the international courses that General Che was doing were obviously black belt internationals. But obviously, there was an opportunity every now and then for colour belts to take part. And I said to my colour belts, you know, if you get an opportunity, get up there. And I had several colour belts who had the opportunity to volunteer and do a pattern in front of General Che. And it's a lifetime experience, and they've got photos to prove it. You know, so much wisdom and so much. It's not just Taekwondo he teaches us, but you know, it's a lot. And as Grandmaster Rhee said, General Che really wanted to spend more time on moral culture, and the etiquette. Sadly, a lot of the courses focus mainly on technical, because that's what most people wanted to. They wanted more time on, you know, is it this and what do you call that and how do you call this? What's that? Is it high, low? What's the purpose of this? And I agree. You know, as Grandmaster Rhee says, you know, as we teach as masters, POM, purpose of movement, it's more important for students to understand the purpose of movement than say that there's Sombarat Golchamaki. If you don't know what Sombarat Golchamaki's for, then what's the point in saying it? You know, hooking block. So what? If you know it's called palm hooking block or Juromaki, you know, it doesn't mean anything. But it's important if you know the POM, purpose of movement. That theory side. And people think it's just the Taekwondo terminology. A lot of people say Korean. I don't speak Korean. I'm very fluent in Taekwondo terminology, and I think that's it. But purpose of movement is really the most important aspect. And I think, you know, a lot of that's been focused on the international courses, but the etiquette side and the philosophy side seems to be diminishing. You know? And as Grandmaster Rhee says, you know, this is a subject that you grandmasters and masters of the day need to make sure that we carry on. There is etiquette, you know, and sometimes it's going astray. You know, how do you receive things? When do you receive things? You know, is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? You know, who sits at the table? Which way do you sit at the table? Which order do you sit at the table? Who comes in first? What do you do when you leave? What do you do when you leave a dojo and come in a dojo? Who's the senior? Who's not the senior? There's so much etiquette and the right way and the way to do things in Korean culture. This is instilled, and you know what we don't want, as sadly the pioneers of Taekwondo are slowly diminishing, aren't they? You know, they're people, and sad as it is, they are slowly passing away. And what we don't want is Taekwondo, traditional Korean martial art, to become too westernized. You know, because you forget, you know, students answering questions. Okay, what's the meaning of do-san? They say this and they don't stand up. You know, simple little things like this. When you present a certificate, oh, thanks very much, sir. You know, they don't use the two hands. It's little etiquette things which we don't want to lose in Taekwondo. But sometimes, you know, I see him even at championships. You know, people get a certificate, you know, and they just snatch it with one hand, you know, a nod, thank you very much. You know, there's no way. They don't stand to attention. They don't use two hands. But you know, there's a reason for that. You know, there's a reason why we use two hands and things like this. And it's all to do with the culture of Korean, which has come into Taekwondo. And with Grandmaster Rhee certainly likes to instill that, but he's not going to be with us forever. So it's the likes of you and I and the other masters and grandmasters around to make sure that we still maintain that integrity of the Korean culture within Taekwondo and don't make it too westernized, you know.
No, very much.
If that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. The essence of the Korean culture, as you say, is in the heart of the Taekwondo itself. And I think we're all kind of somewhat guilty of moving quickly through certain things, presentations and so forth. These things should be given the time, I feel, like you say, to learn the correctness of everything and to have that respect for it. So it's something I definitely will be strengthening our end.
It's so important. It's I know a lot of people don't like the epaulets, but there's a lot of culture and philosophy within them. Why the black stripe? Why not the black stripe on the Abu Sabam? And why the black stripe on the Sabam? And what's the red signify? A lot of controversy over the senior master, whether or not it's applicable or not. I'm not going to go into details. Why blue? What does the blue mean in the grandmaster? What is the purpose? What's the meaning? What is a master? What is an international instructor? What is it for? What does the red mean? Red is the spirit. It's more moral education as well as physical and technical. So that the masters, that's why it's there. The black is the international, and they've got to teach the technical and physical. They're not so responsible from the moral side of Taekwondo. But as you cross the threshold into a master, you get the red stripe, and that obviously, it's you're a wise person. Hyun as a master. There's a term Hyunmo, which is a wise mother in Korean, and that's the term Hyunmo. It's a wise mother because a mother is very wise and benevolent, and they can teach their children lots of life skills. And that's Sahyun. That's the same word and the same thing. So Sa is an instructor. Hyun is that sort of wise person that can teach moral culture as well as philosophy. And that's why that's given to the master. So a lot of masters got to take that on board. And that's the difference between a seventh dan and a master. Whether you believe in the epaulets or whether you wear them, that's irrelevant. That's besides the point. But in far as General Jay's teachings, that's what he believed the master should be responsible for, a little bit more than just technical and physical.
Yeah.
And so I do hope that people take on board these philosophies and those aspects aren't lost.
Yeah.
So
Very much so. Yeah. I've read the foreword of the moral culture booklet that was produced at the time of his autobiography, and in there it says about obviously wishing to spend more time on the moral culture side and the philosophy, and it's something that myself would like to develop more and further my knowledge and reading.
I wanted to do the last seminars on moral culture only, but sadly he passed. And sometimes on instructors courses with Grandmaster Rhee now, he leaves a lot of the technical stuff to myself and Grandmaster Cutler. He supervises, but then he will then be talking a lot about the philosophical and the moral side, which is really great to learn. You can learn as much inside the dojang as outside the dojang, and sometimes many vital lessons has happened on the dinner table.
Of course.
Education learned on the dinner table than there has in the dojang sometimes. So it is a part of Taekwondo that I quite enjoy teaching and passing on, because that's my responsibility as well. I think if you can retrain people's mind to think in different ways, then that's the beauty of it, rather than think punch self-defense all the time. Think about themselves as a human being and their position in society and their position in the world, and it sort of makes them a better understanding and appreciate everything more.
No, very much so. Wow. Okay, Grandmaster, thank you so much for your time today. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you and listening and learning. It's something I'd like to obviously continue again at some point, if you're able to do that.
I'd love to. It's been an honor and a privilege, and I certainly thank you. I mean, obviously, with Taekwondo, it's such a vast subject, isn't it? I mean, you could literally talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. Things pop up and things you'll mention, and it's interesting. But I've enjoyed it. I certainly I thank you for inviting me along, and I just hope students get something out of it. As I say, you know, Taekwondo is a life skill. You know, you know, to me, when we learn to swim, you never know when you're going to need to swim. You know, not every day you come up against water, but at some time in your life, we will be subjected to water, whether we go swimming, whether we fall in the river. But I would like to think that we have enough ability in our swimming to be able to swim to safety. And I think with Taekwondo, it's such a life skill. And if anybody can understand that, that's all we really need in Taekwondo, enough knowledge and confidence to be able to ensure our safety. And it is very much a life skill. It cannot be bought. It requires a lot of determination. But once you've got it forever. You cannot take it away. Once you've learned to swim, I haven't been in a swimming pool for 10 years, but if I fell in the water tomorrow, I will be able to swim to safety. And Taekwondo is very much the same. No, you cannot tell whether you're going to be attacked at school tomorrow, next day, 10 years time, or whether you get attacked at all. But the beauty of with Taekwondo and any martial art, in fact, as I often say, we all martial arts are flowers in the same garden. You know, without the other flowers, Taekwondo won't exist. You can't have just one flower. You know, I'm a strong believer, and that's why I give credit to all martial arts. You know, they are all flowers in the garden. To me, the one that sticks out is the rose, and that's Taekwondo. You know, to a friend of mine, it's karate. But you know, without the tulip, without the daffodil, the rose isn't so special. So we do need all the other martial arts, and I think you know, it is a life skill, and we are all together in the same garden. And I personally like everybody to work together for the benefit and integrity of Taekwondo. Our founder has passed away now. You know, the pioneers are slowly diminishing, sad as it is, you know, and it's up to us as masters and grandmasters and students alike to make sure we keep this Taekwondo family going and maintaining integrity. Too much bickering sometimes on Facebook. He did this, he did that, it's this way, it's that way. Guys, let's just all get together, work on one goal, and that is obviously for the integrity of Taekwondo and maintaining it, and ultimately, you know, giving our students that life skill, which is going to carry them in many, many ways. And I think if we can all do that, then it's going to be a positive.
Yeah, fantastic, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, as I say, I'm really encouraged by what you were saying, and the interviews have been a way for me and hopefully many listeners to hear these explanations given by yourselves, the grandmasters, the seniors, those the closest to the pioneers and the founders, that we can really learn and maintain and keep everything that they gave us in the way they wish it to be. So thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate everything you shared today.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Master, I really that, and I wish you well, and I look forward to meeting you again. And
yeah, for sure.
Be brilliant. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. All the best.
Cheerio. Thank you. Bye.